Anyway, so let me set the scene for these Senate judiciary hearings. They are, how do I articulate it? It's one-way hearing, really, right? So they've got the world's press there, and I recall seeing like the Australian one against, for example, the CEO of Qantas, right?
Sorry, I thought you were gonna cite like, in Iron Man.
Focus.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So really, these guys almost get publicly lambasted.
Yeah.
Like so you.
The line of questioning is brutal.
Is brutal. They almost don't even allow you to talk back. It's pretty. I can understand why for the rest of the other guys they had to court martial them to come in because
because you've seen it.
It's
and you're like,
it's career suicide to a degree,
I'm not gonna waste
right?
my time talking to people who don't like they're asking these questions to try to understand, but they don't even really try to understand. If that makes sense, they want to sometimes push their own agenda across, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where they're adamant that they are part of the cause or guilty of something, whatever it is, right?
Yeah. So I think I'm going to be very like careful here because there's like a lot of emotions when it comes to this. So when what
It's
they were
a trigger warning.
what they were talking about was specifically the role that these CEOs and these heads of state have towards adjudicating and moderating content. What is it like content for
that
for
provokes
minors
self-harm.
and kids, right?
Yeah.
So in that broad like basically topic, right? And they were actually parents of victims of
Yeah.
kids that had either committed suicide over there or had sexual predators that touched them. And this was brutal. So look, obviously the video clips that are doing the social media rounds are Mark Zuckerberg turning back and literally apologizing. Yeah, that's going. And the other one as well, which I'm neither here neither there, is the CEO of TikTok who's Singaporean. There's a little bit of like that happened again. Look, that is
that he's Chinese.
that is
and
what,
it's a Chinese. It's a Chinese.
he
Company,
actually
right?
wasn't, but I like looking. I mean, like the questions that were being asked. But I think my question, without getting into the specifics here, I was reading like a lot of the comments, right? So there is no doubt that these individuals. I mean, we've watched, I can't remember the documentary, my memory is terrible, where we know what happens in these social media networks, where they deliberately create really addictive scenarios for you to come back.
Was it part of the Cambridge Analytica?
It was a social experiment or something. I think that must have been it, right? So, but we know that and we still use it and we know how addictive it is, right? So for children and stuff like that are being exposed to that, there is no doubt, like let's put it out there, that our agreement on the stance is that more needs to be done from the companies in terms of mitigating these sort of content being shown to minors, as an example, sexual predators, etc., etc. 100% more stuff needs to be done, right? The other bit that I just can't help but think, and this is not going to be received very well, is parents also have a big
responsibility
to play in this, right?
They should be the frontline defense.
And I'm not saying it's easy. That is the inherent problem.
Yeah.
And when Zuckerberg, look, they're in the wrong, right? Like, I'm not going to go into like the specifics on it because the amount of evidence that these senators provided, even though it was just presented in a very adversarial way, and there was no way for them to talk, right?
You were never going to win, or
you're never going to win.
Like be presented in a good light, right?
It's beyond past the fact that for sure more needs to be done, right? And in the background, what's happening as well are that because these companies are the biggest companies in the world, they have lawyers that are fighting against these things, right? So tick in the cross box. But the other element is we have to protect our children from it, and we can't make these things easily accessible. If you know that it's bad or that there's elements that it's bad, and the bit that I think Mark was trying to articulate is it's not that black, like this is a terrible example, right? But we don't ban alcohol completely, and we know that it's the single biggest cause of like death for something there. Yeah. So I'm not saying that why does alcohol get a pass and social media doesn't. I'm just trying to
your point there, right? There's an age barrier in place. Very much in all of these social media platforms, they still have to say that you have to be of a certain age to actually have an account.
But you can just lie, right? That's the thing, right?
And then ultimately, if we look at it from a macro view, what does this mean fundamentally for, I guess, society and relationships and whatnot. Technology was supposed to be seen as this way of connecting people from everywhere, connecting being a basis of connection for, you know, specific topics and finding people that are like-minded like you, right? But in that same notion, right, it's very much, and I've seen it in some with in interactions and people that I've seen throughout my life and so on, and right, it genuinely can create a barrier to the actual real conversations and the fundamentals of a family, right? Where you're talking about the ability to, like, let's take the concept of like bullying online, right? It is rife.
But bullying online is an extrapolation of bullying in real life that happens. It's just a different medium,
it's just
right?
a different medium. But like the aspect of it's being able to understand the support that you can get, or even going past the barrier of understanding that this is not just a you problem. Like, I'm talking about this to the person that's being bullied, right? It's very much the actions of that person is a reflection on that person. It is, you know, your teachers that have a responsibility in seeing these situations. It is a responsibility of even the child in itself to be able to speak up or feel confident or feel safe to speak up to your parents and stuff. It is this whole greater cycle of parenting, which arguably it's like no one ever gets a manual for it. You get very much often the experience that you get informs how you then give.
Okay, question.
It's all of those things, right?
Question. Like if it's as simple as like parents saying like you're not allowed to get a Facebook account till you're like 20 or something like that.
Oh, that's a bit much, but
But whatever, like whatever the age is, you can debate about that. Why do you think it's so hard to stop it? It's in the same way that it's so hard to stop kids from like drinking whenever they want to because they're stuck at a certain time.
Because if you can find access to it in any way means that you can, and if you've been told no, the bare basic is like, well, no, I want it, so I'm gonna go find it and get it. Right?
Do you think you could just turn off all your Facebook and that now if you wanted to? Do you think you could actually do that?
Yeah, I think I could.
Yeah, turn it off completely.
Yeah, I think I could. I could turn off Facebook. I could turn off Instagram. This is different from wanting to, right? I could probably turn off Twitter. Like I would still.
I don't think it's that easy, but yeah.
I would still be using the accessing the internet.
Yeah.
To, you know, for work, for reading the news, and like YouTube. Like YouTube's not counted in the mix, right?
Well, see, that's just what briefly touches on that. Like, what's the biggest difference from like our generations to this new generation now, who are essentially being raised on the internet?
Yeah.
Because for us, like, I always think like social media really broke out just like in terms of like Facebook and all that happened like just before I entered high school, essentially, and then that fell in line with like, for example, iPhones and all that, like smartphones.
Yeah.
I only really got one until like towards the end of high school, essentially. Yeah. And from that perspective, like that only makes me grateful that I at least got to grow up. I didn't have to be reliant on this sort of on this form of technology. Like I knew times before that, not to act superior, but it's just that
it's a circuit breaker, right?
Yes. Like, now that this generation is so entrenched in it,
they see it everywhere.
It's harder for them
to
try to break out of it because it was just immediately
thrust upon.
Yeah.
The thing is, arguably, if you created like an environment that you could shelter like children and not do it, the majority of their friends will have it, and that's what's going to make it just almost infinitely
the FOMO
difficult.
of it. Yeah.
But yeah,
my mom doesn't love me enough because I I don't have a phone and look at my phone
as it pertains like to the predators and stuff like that. Again, no doubt these companies need to get better at that.
Yep.
But we need to get better at like making stuff like so easy. Like giving screens can't be that easy.
You mean
parents
creating like safeguards and stuff, not making it easier. But
like it goes both ways because like. And again, I'm very conscious. It's just so like to tiptoe around it because like I can't imagine like being on the other side because it like, fundamentally you're not going to be with your child 24 hours a day. So you can't police stuff like that, but hopefully you're giving enough like attention and love and things that they don't need to spend. So that's the hard bit. I'm not saying that that's the reason why people do it.
The other factor that I don't think we've covered as well is like society's role in this, right? Where you've got celebrities that are perpetuating a certain look, appearance, lifestyle, habits on social media, and you know, I see many a youth that are not even in this, like they're older than this current age bracket within like, you know, school and that, but they're perpetuating that because they see, if that person likes that celebrity, well, I want to be liked too, and I want to look hot as shit or whatever. So I'm gonna literally replicate everything, right? Like the amount of randomly.
That's a human being way though.
It is, right, but it's I know there's no soul for that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's very much like that's out of control, but there needs to be, I guess, you want to be able to enable a child to think, to create self-worth outside of that, if that makes sense.
Because of the way that it has been paired with social media in making it essentially in your face constantly.
All the time.
That's just completely taken over.
People just want to be accepted and people want to belong, right? So if you're in the masses of that, then...
Which we won't go into this topic, but like you just reminded me about like there was this article that came out that apparently Gen Z is aging faster than the previous generation.
Yeah.
And it's we can talk.
So what do you mean by aging? Like physically aging?
We can talk about that in a different.
Let's save it for the next episode because it's quite a good one.
Yeah. But essentially, it's like a lot of them look older than they actually are. Because of factors of, I would say social media in particular, the fact that they want to look older than they actually
everything
are.
is accelerated.
Yes.
Everything is accelerated.
In terms of the duress that is the world at the moment of stress and all that. So
there was, sorry, I have to say it. There was this TikTok that I saw with, I think, alignment with that article where this guy said, it's like, I was going to go meet The Rock. And get his autograph and whatnot, and then he signs like, hey, like to the daughter name or something like that, because he was getting something signed for somebody. The Rock assumed that was for his daughter and said, hey, your dad's pretty cool. And it's
but that TikToker, he's 26.
Yeah, he's 26 years old. Like,
and people
26 old.
And a lot of
I'll show you. Like he looks pretty.
You're saying he looked old.
Yeah, he looks old. Yeah.
A lot of people assumed he was like in his 30s at least. And then he said, Rihanna is older than me.
Yeah.
So,
but Rihanna looks much younger. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's
So we might touch on that next episode or another episode. We'll see.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's a lot to cover.
I guess it's good in a sense that like the social media platforms are being held accountable for this and what I guess focusing on what needs to be done and how to harness or create safeguards within technology to make it easier to, I guess, interact and with people online and stuff, and safeguard from these really bad things that do tend to happen with cyber crimes and scams and what have you, and terrible crimes and that as well. But I guess it's a whole front. You can never really fully blame just one source, right? There's
it's a whole lot.
It's not about blaming, right? But it's just about, okay, it's always challenging about how can we do better? How can we collectively do better?
How can we, in a sense, find the solution together? But